I'm Becca Fulop from Temple University, along with my colleagues Travis Nace, Jenny Pierce, and Jacob Brinsenhoff, and we're going to talk about how we developed a training rubric to help librarians new to our evidence synthesis team learn how to become expert searchers. I'm going to introduce you to our evidence synthesis service. Travis is going to introduce the rubric model that we developed, and Jacob will discuss the results of our work as well as thoughts for next steps. Our hope today is that you will come away from this presentation with an understanding of how an evidence synthesis service can be structured, how you can build a rubric to help train new librarian searchers, how to use that rubric to help librarians improve their skills, and the effect of going through the rubric on members of our team. Our service started in 2015 at the Health Sciences Libraries. Historically called the Systematic Review Service, we went through a transition in 2022, during which time we expanded our service to main campus, and our name was changed to the Evidence Synthesis and Systematic Review Education and Service Program. Leading with evidence synthesis rather than systematic review can signal to researchers outside of the health disciplines the breadth of our services and ability to perform searches for and assist teams outside of the health sciences.
Becca,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. Can you make your slides full screen?
Jenny's doing
looks
the
like Jenny
slides.
just resolved it.
I have no control over the slides.
Yeah, that looks much
Okay,
better.
it's better.
Okay, now I've lost my, okay. All right. Okay, I have no idea where I was. Okay, so our services are free of charge, and we serve students, faculty, and researchers across 3 campuses and 1 hospital through consultation, review, and search services. If we complete a search for publication, we expect co-authorship. Staffing has evolved within the service along with the change in name. More non-health librarians, such as myself, joined the team. Team members have completed non-health science evidence synthesis training, specifically the IMLS Evidence Synthesis Institute. This has broadened our ability to speak to non-health science departments, market to them, and perform high-quality searches. We have a 4-level service model that was developed by Stephanie Roth, formerly of Temple University Libraries, which allows for librarians to enter the service at a level right for their experience and interest. More importantly, it allows people to level up to lead a search. We call this level Class 3. We do not currently have any Class 4 librarians. We have always used a mentorship model for training librarians to level up to Class 3, but over time we noticed that librarians were hesitant about taking on more responsibility in the service, remaining instead in Class 2. When asked, we learned that people wanted more certainty. They wanted to know what they didn't know. They had education on how to search and how to work with researchers, but what they needed was to feel sure that they were ready for Class 3 work. And now I'm going to hand things over to Travis.
Great. Thank you, Becca. As Becca just said, we needed a way to give our searchers the confidence along with the skill sets to move to Class 3. We had no consistency in our onboarding of new searchers, and what we had worked with in the past was no longer working for our team in the present. This led to some searchers feeling unprepared, even though they had gone through what we would have seen as traditional training. I'll put that in curly quotes, like shadowing portions of a review, attending formalized trainings, and self-education through workshops and readings. The resolution was the creation of a rubric to be used in tandem with setting up an official mentor with a mentee throughout the review process. The rubric journey officially began in summer of 2024 with discussion of doing an environmental scan. At this time, we were discussing the idea of a standard system for skills building. This is what would eventually be called the rubric, as we call it now. The scan produced 7 resources to further evaluate. We were interested in any frameworks that discuss training and supporting new searchers. Interestingly, one source pointed back to our own Temple Library's systematic review LibGuide, so we knew that information on this may be limited. To further scan and assess, our service lead, Jenny Pierce, interviewed the heads of several other evidence synthesis services on what other services were doing to advance and support new searchers. After this, we constructed a rubric by going over all the things we already did with new searchers while comparing it to the skill sets we were saying were needed according to our class structure. And again, this is what then became the rubric. A portion of the rubric itself is currently displayed on screen. We chose this model because of the feelings, again, of unreadiness in our searchers. Some were ready and performed well after doing shadowing and training, and some were not. As a team, we felt that something needed to change for the health and wellness of not only our searchers, but the service as well. We used the rubric throughout the process with each mentee that was pursuing that Class 3 designation. The rubric would be gone over with a mentee, and when tasks were accomplished, the mentor would track progress and make notes. After a mentee completed 2 reviews with 2 different mentors, the rubric would be sent to a subcommittee for review and discussion. While we were constructing this rubric, we discussed adding some sort of assessment to the process and how to balance that with observing or asking our searchers questions. The culmination of these discussions was the creation of 2 quizzes to add an assessment component to the process. This was seen as another way to tease out those skill sets that our searchers were excelling in or needed more support. The quizzes are constructed in LibWizard, which is part of the SpringShare suite of tools, and are multiple choice with a text box to allow for further explanation of the searcher's choice. So on screen are 2 questions from one of the quizzes we developed. The questions are original and tailored to specific review types. And while we thought one answer is correct, there really are a few potential answers for some of these. These were designed with a pass-fail mindset and just seeing where someone was in their thinking. If the mentees answered incorrectly, their text answer could and often did justify the response and was of great value. And on screen are a few quotes from both mentors and mentees about the experience. Overall, it's been a really positive experience for everyone involved. Both mentors and mentees had new experiences going through this process, especially with our first mentee. Each new partnership has continued to refine the process, and it generally has been faster and smoother for each subsequent mentee. There are some through lines with the comments from both mentor and mentee. I'll point out that both mentor and mentee used words like confidence and anxiety. One of the mentees was also really good about giving feedback about the process as it was happening to improve upon the experience. One mentor talked about feelings of validation, and even though they became a searcher from the rubric, this really solidified their place in the service. And now I'll hand it over to Jacob to discuss our results.
All right. Thanks, Travis. Next, I want to talk briefly about the results we've seen after implementing the rubric and the mentor-mentee model. Like Travis said, we began developing this rubric approximately 2 years ago, and we soft launched the rubric model and the formal mentor-mentee system approximately a year and a half ago, and we've used it for all new librarian members of the service who have joined since then. And so far, the rubric model has been a big success for the service. All of our current Class 3 searchers have mentored members of the service who want to move up to Class 3, and having the rubric as a resource to keep track of what we as mentors need to train our mentees on, as well as what our mentees need to know to move to Class 3, has been helpful for all of us, mentors and mentees. Like Becca mentioned, 2 librarians have joined the service since we began designing and implementing the rubric, and both of those new members work with mentors and are using the rubric to train for Class 3 and are on track to move up to Class 3 soon, and 2 other librarians have completed the rubric and moved from Class 2 to Class 3. Notably, one of our new members of the service who is training to move to Class 3 is a technical services librarian who does not have reference and instruction as her primary job duty. Training her has helped us make sure that the rubric is helpful for training librarians for multiple areas of library work, not just those of us who are primarily reference and instruction librarians. While this librarian is our first non-reference member of the service, we hope to onboard more interested librarians in the future. And next steps. Our next steps for the rubric and the service are, for the moment, simple. We plan to continue seeking feedback from mentors and mentees who have used the rubric to either mentor members of the service or to train and move up to Class 3. Like Travis said, the process has gotten smoother and quicker with each person that we evaluate using the rubric, but the rubric is a living document and we want to continue improving it to make it more effective for mentors and more helpful for our mentees. We also plan to continue using the rubric to train members of the service who want to move to Class 3, since interest in evidence synthesis from our liaison schools, departments, and faculties continues to grow, and like I said, we hope to add more librarians to the service. We've also talked about developing more assessment quizzes for the rubric to test librarians who are training to be Class 3 searchers, to test them on the theory of evidence synthesis along with the practice. And finally, we've briefly talked about developing a similar rubric for anyone who wants to move from Class 3 to Class 4. A Class 4 member of the service has skills in data management along with expert searching and can work on data extraction, data visualization, and statistical meta-analysis for systematic reviews. And a Class 4 librarian can also contribute to more complex reviews like a living systematic review. Like Travis and Becca both said, while we don't currently have any official Class 4 members of the service, developing a rubric would give members of the service a set of standards to meet if they want to move up to Class 4. So the rubric model functions as a systematic method to expand our capacity to train new librarian members of the service, and we plan to take advantage of this expanded training capacity to develop a marketing campaign to market and promote the systematic review service to our liaison schools, departments, and faculty, because we know the interest in evidence synthesis is there, so our next step is promoting the service to them. And finally, I want to give a big thank you to former colleagues Olivia Givens-Costello and Andrea Schipper for helping develop this educational program. And thank you to all of our current librarian service members, which are listed here.